I'm Reeves Kurtner, and this is In Your Business. Season 1 of In Your Business is presented by Moses Auto Mall of Huntington. Online at mosesmeansmore.com, empowered by the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce and Kindred Communications. This week, we're going grocery shopping with Tim Forth, the owner of Food Fair. He's going to take us up and down the aisles of his regional grocery store chain just to find the odds in an industry dominated by corporate giants. We'll discuss the secrets behind their success, explore the challenges of being an independent player, and uncover the strategies that have made Food Fair a staple in our community for more than 55 years. Let's get in your business. Tim, thank you for being here. Start by telling us the history of Food Fair and how you've literally been a part of the company your entire life. Let's start there.
Okay, we started like many other family businesses start. My dad, Charles Forth, went into business when I was 6 years old, and we will not talk about how long ago that was.
Okay, fair enough.
It was a long time ago, and through hard work, he was absolutely not given any advances up.
Okay, got it.
He worked at B&B Food Market at 19 years old. From the time he was 19 years old to he was 27. Started out as a carryout boy back when we had carryout boys.
Okay.
And worked his way up. Managed every department in the store with the exception of the meat department in 8.5 years.
Okay.
Got this opportunity to lease this 4,000 square foot wood floored little grocery store in Barboursville, West Virginia that many people know as Tower Grocery. And when you walk into our store today, if you look up, you'll see pictures of it. There was actually a grocery store there from the 40s on, and there has been ever since. But it shows a picture of the store in the 40s. It shows a picture of the stores when we bought it and then all the stages since. But at that time he bought it, was a 4,000 square foot wood building. Went in there, he opened the door, he closed the door. As a child growing up, dinner time at our house was 9 o'clock in the evening time.
Oh, wow.
Because the store closed at 8. By
That's
the time
right.
you got the floor mopped and all the tills checked out, and then you got home, it was 9 o'clock.
Sure.
So it was dinner at 9 o'clock, bed, up for school the next morning. So, I've been in this thing my whole life. I grew up in it my whole life.
Yes. So, and we talk about your involvement, and you obviously, I love the story of family businesses. What were your first roles within Food Fair, and talk about where you are now.
Well, as a 6-year-old boy, my job was to aggravate the help.
Right.
But spent a lot of time in the store because the store was the babysitter. Frankly, my mom and dad both worked in there.
Okay.
And got was probably around teenagers well before I probably should have been as a 6-year-old. But anyway, grew up in it. I was doing things at 12 years old that frankly wage and hour would probably put us under the jail for today.
Got it.
I can tell you at 15 years old, I went to work for real.
Okay.
And my job was to clean the meat department after the butchers worked all day, and so forth. But before I did that, the beef truck would come in on 2 nights a week.
Okay.
And at that time, we were buying whole sides of beef. So they came in quarters, 4 quarters and hind quarters. Well, they weigh about 200 pounds apiece. At 15 years old, I was putting one of those on my shoulder, walking it into the cooler, hanging it to get it in the cooler. After that, my job was to use equipment that I probably shouldn't have been using, bandsaws, knives, whatever. It broke the beef down into saw-ready primals for the meat cutters the next day, and then bone and trim the offal. So I was actually a meat cutter at 15 years old.
Sure. So when did Food Fair start? So you mentioned the Tower location, and you can tell whenever you talk to somebody if they're a local or if they've been here their whole life, they call it Tower. When did Food Fair start expanding and adding a second, third, fifth location? How many locations do you have now, and when did you all start that?
Well, we have 18 locations right now that we use under the trade name of Food Fair.
Yes.
Actually, as early as 1969, my dad got the opportunity. He'd been in business 2 years. He had got the opportunity to buy another little 4,000 square foot store in Coal Grove, Ohio, that we still run today under the name of Village Pantry. It's not a food fair.
Okay.
They can't do exactly everything we do, but it's just a little community store.
Yeah.
We're still running it today. and he bought it in 1969. So 27 years old in 1967, he bought the one little 4,000 square foot store. In 1969, he bought another, and that's when my uncle came into the business with us, Gene Forth. Both are deceased now, but that's when he came into the business and ran that one, and Dad ran the one in Barboursville. And it just went from there.
Right.
Most of our stores are family businesses that the family either did not want or could not run anymore. The person who ran them got older, passed away. Families weren't interested or didn't have the expertise to do it. And that's kind of how we grew to the 18 stores we are today.
Right. So, I want to talk about, being an independent in a chain world. What sets Food Part apart from the larger chain competitors, in your opinion?
Well, obviously our people sets us apart. Our people. I have many 30-year employees, 20-year employees, all the way down to the college kids that are part-time that work their way through college. Probably one of the most rewarding things that we have done is I have alumni, as I call them, from Food Fair they're lawyers, they're dentists. Had one young man call me. Well, I say he's young. He's middle aged now, but he lives in North Carolina. Was an employee for us. Worked through high school and college, and he now runs a aerospace company in North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
He's the CEO of that. He called me up when my father passed away and expressed his condolences. And he said, the one thing that I really appreciate about my time with you guys is you guys taught me how to work. And, that meant a lot to me.
Right.
So our people are what set us apart. You talk about, being an independent in a chain environment. It's kind of like, battling the Soviet Union on one front and China on the other front and Iran on the other front.
That's right.
You're kind of bombarded from all ends. Everybody wants to be in the grocery business today. In certain parts of it.
Does it really?
Oh, well, yeah. Look around. Target.
Okay, I see. Yes.
Yeah. Everybody wants to dabble in it because they like that frequency to get the customer in the door.
That's right.
That's Walmart's plan and so forth. So everybody's taking shots at you, right down to the drugstore, right down to the dollar store.
No, that's right.
And so forth.
Wow.
So it's challenging, but what you have to do is you have to differentiate yourself. If you try to follow the big guys, it's kind of like you're in a dog sled team, and if you're trying to follow the big guys, the view's always the same.
That's true.
So you got to differentiate yourself and be the lead at something, and that's what we try to do.
So what do you all try to lead in? What do you try to differentiate yourself in?
Service.
Okay.
Number one, service. When you walk in, you're going to see, most of the time, you're going to see the same person all the time. Now, we have turnover like everyone else.
Sure.
But a lot of our employees are long-term employees. They know your name when you come in. We know they know you know their name, and all that that's different than the chain experience. The next one is quality perishables. We try to do the things that the chain stores don't want to do. We want to have the best deli in town. We want to have the best produce department in town. We've hung our hat for years on our meat selection and our Black Canyon Angus beef, and those are things that the chain stores don't want to do.
Right.
We're just about the only person in town still cutting meat fresh in store.
You mentioned the challenges. What are the challenges that you do face as an independent?
Well, there's no question that we're battling the giants. Someone media called it the David and Goliath story.
It is. I think it is. Yeah.
And especially when you look at go to our first store, Barboursville. When you look at that store, we're dealing with one major competitor, the largest or the second largest in the country. With an 85,000 square foot store in our parking lot.
That's right.
We have go 1,000 yards down the street, and you got another major competitor.
Sure.
With a brand new store. Well, go east 4 miles, go west 4 miles, and you have 200,000 square foot of the largest retailer in the world.
Yeah.
So we're battling at all ends, and frankly, it's if we got to be the best, because if we're not the best, that we're going to get swallowed
That's
up.
right.
And we know that.
Yeah. Talk about that store in Barboursville Tower, and I don't know the history. I know some of the history. I don't know the whole thing. You're right. You share a parking lot with a competitor. When they, and what year did that competitor move in? Do you know?
Roughly 1990 something. It's been over 20 years ago. I can't remember exactly.
I guarantee they were like, we'll move in here and he'll close up shop. I almost guarantee they thought you would not put up a fight. Talk about the decision. Again, the Route 60 store in Barboursville, your competitor you share a parking lot with. But when they made that new store, you could have, all right, well, let's just close the doors and go somewhere else. But rather than that, you closed your store and built a bigger one in a more modern location. But we talk about that story.
Well, there were those at the time that kind of scratched their head, and those in business that kind of scratched their head and said, what are you guys doing?
Right.
Well, probably a good question, frankly.
Sure.
But the Barboursville community and the East Cabell County community had always been good to us, and we knew that we could compete on key areas, meat department, delis, perishables. If we had the proper facilities, we knew we could compete there.
That's right.
Frankly, we stay very competitive even on dry grocery shelf prices.
Okay.
I mean, we don't apologize for anything we put out there because we stay competitive. Would I have went to the bank and borrowed the money to put that in? Probably not. But one thing my dad taught me long ago, he goes, let's work on our own capital. Let's work on our own money.
That's right.
Because our business is so volatile. Any business plan we put out there is only as good as the next competitor moving in.
That's right.
So we've always worked on our own capital, and that's allowed us to be competitive where people that are highly leveraged are not.
Sure. Let's talk about some of the trends in the grocery industry. Out of all so many businesses changed before and after COVID. Grocery industry was, I think, changing before, and then it really got accelerated. I mean, who would have thought on grocery delivery and pickups and all that kind of stuff? How do you and how does Food Fair, look at the industry trends and make your decisions to adopt them as well?
Well, again, you want to, technology is probably the biggest change we've seen over the last 5 years. When my father passed away a little over 5 years ago, one of my biggest fears was, can I catch up technologically? We were behind, frankly, very behind in technology. We were operating stores with paper ads going mailed to homes and so forth. Back when other stores were having apps and being online and doing these things, and we were just behind on that. And we've spent the last 5 years very, very quickly trying to catch up. And if my IT guy, I've got one. These other guys, they got a whole team of IT people.
Of course they do. Yeah,
I've got one.
That's right.
And as far as I'm concerned, he's the best. And I told him, I said, if you quit, I quit. But he's hung in there, and he is loyal as they come. And like a lot of my staff, just super, super loyal. And we have adapted. We have caught up. We're still catching up. Still got a ways to go. But technology has changed everything. COVID changed how people shop.
Yeah.
Now we see the increase of curbside, and now it's coming. Now that COVID's over, it's coming back down again. But where people go to get their information has changed. The paper ad is no longer, and some people are not happy about that. We would put it out there as long as we had an economical means to do it. But when the big guys pull out of the paper advertising, there's no medium there to do that
That's
anymore.
Right.
The Tri-State Sunday become the Tri-State Monthly.
Yes.
And it's just not cost effective to try to do that on your own.
Paper's expensive.
Oh, very expensive.
Right?
Very
just
expensive.
the delivery
yeah.
of it. It's
very expensive.
What other trends? And talk about that. Technology wise, what other trends are out there and that you all are following now?
Well, the trend to fresh. If you go back 20 years, canned goods were the major staple. People, if you write a big canned good ad, you build a big display, stack it high, people would beat your door down for it. Well, not so much anymore. People are very much more fresh, in tune to fresh product. The average consumer comes in our door and does not know what they're going to fix for dinner that evening.
Okay.
So convenience is important with the two working households, and we're adapting to that, trying to make it easier for them to put a meal on their table in 30 minutes, and we're starting to do menus based on that and recipes based on that, where we can show you can put a nutritious meal on your family's table in 30 minutes or less. and here's the kit for it, and that's kind of where we're heading.
Sure.
And that's where the customer is heading. It's not I'm going to go stock my cupboard, and I'll work out of my cupboard till the next payday.
That's right.
That is changing greatly. The younger generation doesn't do that. Our parents did, or well, my wife still does. Your generation doesn't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
the bomb shelter people, right? Got to stock up the bomb shelter.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
With the canned goods.
Yeah, us baby boomers, we do that.
Yes.
Yeah, but I watch how my children, my adult children, they're in their late 30s to 40s. I look at their behaviors on how they food shop and so forth, and it's much different than what we do.
Right.
So. We're trying to react to that, and it's changed in the last 5 years. What changes has happened in the last 5 years probably took 20 years before to happen.
What do you think? Are there other trends you see happening that anybody's talking about?
Well, the trends with grocery inflation that's happening, and it is slowing down a little now, not near as bad as it was, but it's still there.
Sure.
We're starting to see the more acceptance of store brands coming into play. For years, people
wanted the name brand.
With the name brand, you know, and a lot of that was advertising influence. Choosy mothers choose Jif, and so forth. But the quality of store brands have came up very much, and with the inflation the way it is, price has become more of an issue.
Yeah.
And people are kind of moving a little bit more toward that, and we're reacting to that.
Sure.
For years we were the name brand people. We had we boasted name brand product at store brand prices. Well, now store brands, the quality has come up to the point that we're shifting our focus a little bit and becoming more player in the store brand category.
How does Food Fair, how does a regional grocery store do the store brands? Kroger has a Kroger brand, and Walmart has a Choice brand. I don't know. I don't know.
They all do.
They
all do.
How does Food Fair have that off-brand store brand products?
We depend on suppliers. We use 2 or 3 different suppliers that have what they call private brands.
Right.
Okay. And then we pick the best out of that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, what probably the biggest in our store now is Everyday Essential.
Right.
Okay. That is one that we carry. Walnut Creek is also another brand that we have that we work with. That's a private brand that we use that has wide acceptance. It's an Amish-based company. And then there are others, but those are probably our 2 biggest.
Do you seek guidance or inspiration from other food fairs across the country, other regional grocery stores?
Yes, there's no question about that. Through organizations like the National Grocers Association and FMI and so forth, we collaborate. I went to the National Grocers Association convention in Las Vegas earlier this year, and you see trending things, and not that you use them exactly the way those folks look at it, but you get ideas from that.
Is that like an independent type meeting, or
it is? It's all regional chains and independents, just like me. Some are even larger than us. For example, Food City's part of that organization.
Okay.
They're a larger regional chain down in Kentucky. So spent a lot of time with their IT guy just bouncing things off each other.
Sure. Let's talk about supply chain and sourcing and that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, supply chain issues. It has been in the news for the last couple of years, and eggs, right? I mean, a couple months ago, we couldn't get eggs, or they cost $10 for a 12-pack, or for a dozen eggs, or whatever. How does Food Fair, how do you manage your supply chain and your sourcing strategies to compete with those larger chains?
Well, first of all, you don't depend on one source. That's number one. We have 2 major wholesalers we deal with. We also have suppliers we deal with direct. From a supply chain perspective, it's getting better. It's not perfect yet,
right.
But it is getting much better. The supply chain thing kind of leads you into the inflationary thing, and you mentioned eggs. Commodities. Okay, that is one segment of what causes inflation: supply and demand.
Yes.
It's just part of our system. Avian flu was a big component to why eggs got so high when we had to kill just millions and millions of chickens, layers at peak times.
Right.
For so forth on that. And see, that same disease also was what caused the turkey shortage, not last year but the year before. And it's even affecting prices today, in that the fear is out there among the producers that, it's going to hit again. Well, give you a little market hint coming up is probably turkeys should be plentiful this year.
Okay.
A lot of people, the pricing was high because the offerings come out high because they were in fear of avian flu that didn't happen. So this year you might actually see fresh turkeys, which are typically higher than frozen turkeys for Thanksgiving. You might see those actually at parity price with frozen turkeys this year. So it's going to be a little different dynamic.
Talk about, too, you have a huge warehouse and distribution center for food fair as well, right?
We do.
And that's a big part of your strategy.
Yes, we do have a local warehouse. We're honestly, that's how we stay competitive. When I told you earlier that we don't back up from our value and our price with the chains, that's how we do it. Being able to source buys and so forth and store there and locally. When the pandemic hit, people say, well, why are your stores stocked and all the chains are empty? Well, it's because I had a facility with $6 million worth of inventory in it, right down the street.
That's right.
And that helped us in that. And yes, we have that facility. We've had it for 30 years, right off Woodville Drive here in Huntington. We're kind of quiet. You wouldn't
know it was there.
Yeah,
you might see a few food fair trucks go through, but that's you don't know it's there.
Yes, but we're a little over 100,000 square feet now. As far as grocery warehouses go, we're a baby. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but we're a little over 100,000 square foot warehouse.
Sure. What about local suppliers? Do you work with local farm suppliers?
We do. We have a very good relationship with Clark Farms right across the river in Chesapeake, Ohio.
Okay.
Anytime we can work with a local farmer, we do. The thing about being local is you got to be local.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Right.
We got to own local. And that's what we try to do. If it's a local product, we try to own local.
Yeah.
And and anytime we can do that with a local farmer or a local brand or a regional brand, we want to be the person to do that.
Sure. What are the future plans for Food Fair? What's next? Or
well, we have in the last few years we've put on 4 new stores. The store in Wheelersburg. We have one in Milton, one in Hamlin, one in Ironton. We took over the Pick and Save in Ironton, and so forth. We're just kind of right now trying to grow into that new role in these facilities. Labor shortage is a big concern right now, and right now we don't have huge plans for expansion simply because I don't have the people to do so.
Right.
From a management standpoint. That's the thing right now. If an opportunity come up and the staff is solid and want to stay with you, then obviously we would look to do that.
Sure. Do you have the room to expand with your warehouse?
Oh yes, absolutely.
You still got room there.
We do.
Yeah,
we have room to expand, and we want to stay. You don't want to outkick your coverage, if you know what I'm saying. You want to make sure that you can manage what you take on.
When you look, to take on a new location like a Ironton, what goes into that decision? How does all that happen? Do they call you? You call them? How does that work?
Well, in that particular case, the previous tenant to that building announced they were going to close.
Okay.
And the landlord called me and we worked through some things. We had a Allied store in the market that was older that we purchased and bought out to kind of consolidate the market a little bit. And
tell me, your Cold Grove store?
No, our Cold Grove store's still open. This was a store in Ironton.
Oh, okay.
That was an Allied store that owned by a friend of mine. He was in the retirement mode, and his store needed a lot of investment. He didn't want to do it, so it was just a natural fit.
Okay.
And we were able to put that deal together.
Do on other deals, do people call you like, hey, we want to get out of the business, the kids don't want to run it, will you take it over?
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are.
Hey, we'll call Tim. He'll take care of it.
Well, there are multiple stores out there that families are wanting to get out of them. There's no question about that. The problem happens is they quit investing in their stores many years before they want to get out of them.
That's right.
And then they don't have anything to sell once the time comes.
Sure.
And if you want to try to sell your business, if that's your exit strategy, then you've got to have something to sell when you get there.
That's right.
You can't get 5 times earnings out of a company if someone's going to have to put 6 times earnings back in it.
Sure.
To get it up to standard.
Kind of getting towards the end here. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to be an independent? Having multiple locations in a chain world. What do you think the keys are? Not just grocery, but just anything. Being an independent.
Being an independent, in the supermarket business, to be honest with you, that's what I know. So that's what I can opine on. I do not know that my dad's story could be repeated today. To be honest with you, well, the capital that it takes to get involved in it, to get yourself to a place where you can be significant in a market. For source of supply and so forth. If you remember, back in 1967, Kroger was still running corner markets in town.
Okay.
And, they weren't the big mega stores that they are. The Walmarts did not exist.
That's right.
A lot has changed since then. If you're going to try to do that, you got to have a niche, you got to be specialized, and you got to know your market.
Sure.
I wouldn't say it's impossible to do, but it is very difficult to do in today's market. I don't know that I would try it if I was starting new today.
How different, as far east as you go, is that far west? Is that Grayson?
Grayson, Kentucky is as far west as we go.
And then what about east? Would it be your Barboursville or Culloden?
Culloden store would be the farthest east we go.
All right, are there differences in those stores?
Absolutely.
Like Grayson's different. Grayson's a beautiful store. I was actually there a couple weeks ago for the first time ever, and beautiful store. And I grew up in Culloden, and I was familiar with the Culloden Independent Supermarket, showing my roots there. But do you have to run those stores different because the people are different and the neighborhoods are different?
Well, you do. You have to run them different because they're totally different operations. Grayson is our largest volume store. It's also our largest square footage store, and that market is different in that the town of Grayson is not very big, but the outlying rural community is huge.
That's right.
And you get a lot of people from outside the city there that come there to shop.
Sure.
Because it's just a rural area, and it doesn't attract the Walmarts. It doesn't attract those other people.
That's right.
So that's a whole different animal than where you're at Culloden, which is really a neighborhood store.
It is.
And so, we're able to run both of those as food fairs, but how you operate them changes a lot. Now, one thing we do is you're not going to see any pricing change between Culloden, West Virginia, and Grayson, Kentucky. If it says food fair, it has the same price.
That's great.
Everywhere.
Yeah, only difference will be the tax, right? The
only difference will be the tax
in whatever
That's
area
exactly
they're
right.
in. Yeah. And again, kind of going back to trends, what trends do you personally like that you've seen in your time in this business? What trends do you not particularly like that you're seeing right now? And where do you stand on self checkout? What are your thoughts on that? Let's go.
All right, that's a good one. Okay, that's a good one. You remember when I said earlier that if you try to always follow the leader, the view never changes.
That's right.
Okay. Well, our circumstances are much different than our chain brethren. They're much larger stores than we are. They might have 10 cashier lanes open if for full checkout. So what they have done is they have went to self-checkout to cut labor cost.
Of course.
Okay. We have not because, we're local. We want that customer interaction with our people and so forth. So we have chosen not to do that. Now, we both have the same problems because, with the labor shortage, wages have went up. Well, that was great when the federal government was throwing out SNAP benefits like crazy.
Sure.
And everybody's business was
That's
great.
right.
But now that's gone, but we still have these wages up here. So we're all looking to cut our total wage cost. we're choosing to do it in other ways other than self-checkout because we think it's very important to have to have that customer interaction at the front end. That is the last chance you have to influence the customer is at the cash register.
That's right.
And we think that's important. And as long as I can get people to that with smiling faces to work that job, we're going to keep it.
So that's the one. We're not going to see any self-checkout for the time being.
That is not unless we just have to.
This has been In Your Business. I'm your host, Reeves Kurtner. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, share, and even leave us a review. Season 1 of In Your Business is presented by Moses Auto Mall of Huntington, MosesMeansMore.com, and powered by the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce and Kindred Communications.